What's up, guys? Court Order here. You know, there's been all sorts of buzz in the treasure hunting world about all the brand new metal detectors that have come out this year. And I thought I'd do an in-depth tutorial on my personal favorite one, the Nokta Triple Score. The Triple Score detector is loaded with all the latest technology, but it was designed with the beginner hobbyist in mind. And even though it can be a turn-on-and-go detector, because there's so many customizable features, I'm going to go over all the settings and explain how making changes to each setting adjust the performance of the machine. Now, the Triple Score also has two younger siblings, the Score and the Double Score. These detectors have slightly less features, but because they share the same interface, this video should be equally helpful for those machines as well. So let's get the machine to some better lighting so you can see the full tutorial of the Nokta Triple Score. Later. Well, let's take a quick look at the outside hardware of the Triple Score before diving into the control box. It comes with two fully carbon fiber rods that are strong yet lightweight, with the entire machine weighing only 2.6 pounds. And they're fully length adjustable using locking cams to ensure they stay securely in place. The Triple Score comes with two double D search coils, a large 12 by 9 inch coil for covering large open areas, and a smaller 9.5 by 6 inch sniper coil for those target heavy areas. Both search coils are completely waterproof, and in fact the entire detector is fully submersible down to an impressive 16 feet. I don't have a 16-foot bucket. It even comes with Bluetooth low latency headphones to better hear the faintest of deep targets. On the back of the control box, there's a large speaker, a ground-facing LED flashlight, and two input connectors, one for connecting the search coil and the other for charging the machine with the included USB cable. The non-slip rubberized hand grip shoots up at an angle for easy viewing access of the screen, while also allowing one thumb access to all the buttons. But enough about the outside. Let's go look at the inside, heart and soul of the Triple Score. Well, the Triple Score, along with the Score and Double Score, each use a 7-button keypad. There's a left and right arrow button for navigating through the different settings, a plus and minus button for changing levels of settings. On the left is a frequency/noise cancellation button, the bottom a pinpoint/discrimination button, and on the right side is your power/settings button. To turn the machine on, you're just going to press and hold the power button for about 2 seconds. You'll see the version come up on the screen, currently 1.1, and then your home screen comes up. Now, before we dive into the settings, let's familiarize ourselves a little bit with the home screen. At the very top is your information bar. You'll see your current battery level in the top left, and then to the right of that, going across the top, are any settings that are currently activated and turned on. There's only a few right now, but as we go through, you'll see a lot more pop up. Under the information bar are your detecting modes, with the current mode outlined by a rectangle. You start off in park mode. As you use the right and left arrow buttons, we can arrow over to field mode, beach mode, and if you have the Triple Score, relic mode. The Score and Double Score machines do not have a relic mode, but that does not mean those machines won't find relics. The search modes are just optimized for those environments, and you'll find plenty of relics within the field, park, and even beach modes. Under your search modes shows your current discrimination pattern, followed by your target ID scale going from 1 to 60. On this target ID scale, you'll see 30 dashes going across the bottom, where each dash represents two unique target identifying numbers on that 1 to 60 scale. When you swing over a metal target, you will see an arrow appear underneath of the corresponding segment, indicating where along that target ID scale your target fell. Now, because the target ID segments cover two identifying numbers, you'll also get a single 2-digit number in the center of your screen to help narrow down what that target might be even more. Lower conducting targets like iron will have a low number and will show up on the left side of the scale. And high conducting targets like copper and silver will have a higher number and will appear more on the right side of the scale. So if a quarter has a target ID of, say, 50, it's represented on the target ID scale by this segment, which controls target IDs 50 and 51. If there's a solid rectangle above the dash, then you'll be alerted when you swing over something that falls into that segment. If there's no solid rectangle above the dash, then you're discriminating or eliminating out that target and you will not get a response from the machine. So the discrimination pattern on the left dictates what target IDs are currently being eliminated and which ones are not. Now you can change the discrimination pattern by tapping the discrimination button and cycling through the different patterns. We're currently in all metal mode, which has an A as a discrimination pattern. You'll notice solid rectangles above every dash along the target ID scale, so nothing is being discriminated out, and we will hear every single metal target we swing over. We can change the pattern by hitting the discrimination button. And now we change to, it looks like a 6, but it's a G for ground. You can see just the first black rectangle is now eliminated above that dash, which means if we swing over a target ID that generates a number of 1 to 2, we will not get a response from the machine. If we tap the discrimination button again, now we're in F for ferrous. Ferrous mode eliminates, the first looks like 5 blocks above the dashes, so we're eliminating any target IDs that would fall from 1 to 10, and we will not get a response from any of those targets. And then C for custom, where I can customize any discrimination pattern I like, choosing what I'm going to hear and what I'm not going to hear. Under the target ID shows your current frequency being used, and you can change that by cycling through the frequency button. We're currently in M1 or multi-1. We can go to multi-2, multi-3, single frequency 4, single 15, single 20, and back to multi. Some of the other search modes, like relic mode for instance, only give us the option for multi. But park and field, we have 6 different search frequencies to use. Now without getting too crazy about search frequencies, as a general rule, a lower search frequency, like 4 kilohertz, is better at detecting high conductors like copper and silver, and you will get better depth in these lower frequencies. A higher frequency, like 20 kilohertz, will be better at detecting low conductors like small gold nuggets at shallower depths. Now the multi-frequencies, M1, 2, and 3, send out simultaneous multiple frequencies all at the same time to give your machine the best chance at both low conductors and high conductors, especially in mineralized soil. The M1 leans more towards lower frequencies, so it's weighted more towards those high conductors like copper and silver. The M2 is weighted more towards the high frequencies, better for the low conductors like gold. And the M3 is weighted more towards wet ground conditions. The exact simultaneous frequencies for each multi-frequency is a proprietary secret, and not even Mr. Krabs has access to that. The frequency button also doubles as a noise cancellation function, which is one of my favorite features. A metal detector can act erratic when it's close to high power lines, cell towers, or any electromagnetic device. By running a noise cancellation, the machine will make small incremental shifts, scanning 13 different channels within its current frequency band to find the quietest channel to operate in. To do the frequency shift, you lift your coil into the air so it's not against the ground and hold down the frequency shift button for about 3 seconds. You see the animation on the screen as it cycles through the 13 different channels, scanning each one, looking for which one will work the quietest for you in your environment. It landed on channel 1 in multi-frequency 3, so now the machine will be as quiet and stable as it can be, canceling out interference from other electromagnetic devices. Under your search frequency on the left, you will see the sensitivity graph. The sensitivity right now is at 1, the lowest setting, and I can raise all the way up to 15. Now because I'm indoors, it's going to pick up nails and windowsills, even some metal on this table. So I'm going to lower it back down using the minus button. back to 1 so it's tolerable. Even when you're out in the field, the max sensitivity might make the machine act a little erratic, so go to the top and then slowly work your way down one step at a time until your machine is more stable. On the right side is your depth indicator meter. It shows how deep your target is. Each solid bar represents 2 inches of depth starting from the top, working your way down. Now, depth on any metal detector is based on if the target is a coin-size object. If you swing over something enormous, like a manhole cover, the detector will show that it's maybe 1 or 2 inches deep when actually it's a foot or more down. Because it can see so much of that target, it assumes it's shallow. Vice versa, if you swing over a tiny stud earring, the machine might say that it's 8 inches deep when actually it's laying right on the surface. The detector's trying to determine how deep your target is based on how much of it can see. Now, smack dab in the center is your large 2-digit target ID number. This is the most noticeable thing on the screen, and it helps you determine what your target might be. As a basic rule of thumb, low conductors like iron will have low numbers, maybe 1 through 10 or 12. Higher conductors like silver and copper coins will show higher numbers, above 40 or so. And relics can really fall almost anywhere on the entire number scale, depending on what they're made of and how they're oriented in the ground. The target ID number is just a guide, even though we all get excited when you see that screaming high tone. But remember that 51 could be a silver quarter, but it could just as easily be a small piece of aluminum siding scrap. Below the target ID number, I know you don't see anything there yet, but if I tap the settings button, you'll see an additional 2 lines of settings. We're going to start on the bottom row and go all the way over to the left, which is your ground balance setting. Ground balancing helps your machine offset the mineralization in the soil, which will give your machine more stability along with increased depth. To do a ground balance, you find a quiet area where there's no target being emitted under your coil, and press and hold the pinpoint button. Pump your coil up and down about 8 inches off the ground. The ground balance will slowly read the ground until it finally settles on the correct mineralization number to balance your machine. Then release the pinpoint button and the ground balance is done. You can quickly tap the pinpoint button again and you'll see the ground tracking icon appear on your top information bar. With ground tracking on, your detector will constantly monitor the ground conditions and make incremental adjustments to this ground balance as needed, all behind the scenes. While ground tracking is turned on, your machine will go through battery life a little faster, so you can also turn it off by clicking on your ground balancing option again and just tapping it once, removing it from the information bar. The ground balance is also search mode specific, so if you ground balance your detector while you're in park mode and then switch over to field mode, you'll have to re-ground balance again since you changed your search modes. The next setting we're going to cover is your recovery speed. The recovery speed is how fast your detector can relay targets back to you. To access the recovery speed, you hit your settings button and arrow over to the second icon from the left. The recovery speed setting on the triple score can go as low as 1 up to as high as 5. If the recovery speed is set to a high number, your machine will be able to differentiate multiple targets in close proximity better, with each target giving you its own rapid target response, but at a cost of decreased depth. A lower recovery speed number, like 1, may not be able to distinguish 2 close targets together, but it increases the overall depth of the machine. This is a great setting to adjust depending on your location. If there's a lot of shallow targets close together, or not a lot of targets and they're really deep, just adjust your recovery speed accordingly. The double score only has recovery speeds from 1 to 3, and the score does not offer any adjustable recovery speeds. The next setting on the row is your iron filter setting. To get to your iron filter setting, you hit your settings button, navigate 2 icons over to the left, and that is your iron filter icon. The iron filter helps you adjust how potentially good non-ferrous targets sound that are mixed in trashy ferrous areas, or vice versa. As you lower the iron filter setting, it will increase the probability that an iron target will alert as a non-ferrous target. As you increase the iron filter, you increase the probability that a non-ferrous target will alert as a ferrous target. For me, I err on the lower setting, and the default of 3 is pretty good, because I'd rather dig an iron target that fooled me than miss a good target that gave an erroneous alert. The iron filter is only available in multi-frequency, and changes only affect your current detecting mode. The range of iron filter goes from 0, which is off, all the way up to as high as 9, with a default setting, I believe, at 3. Now, specifically, if you were running in relic mode, so I'm going to switch over and now go into my iron filter, your iron filter actually becomes an iron reject button instead. The iron reject has a setting of 0, which is off, up to 5, and 0 is the default. In relic mode, the volume and frequency produced by all targets changes depending on the strength of the signal. So by increasing the iron reject, you may be able to differentiate iron easier, especially in strong, shallow targets. When you increase the iron filter, it also increases the likeliness that a good, deep target may give an iron tone. The next setting is your volume setting. To access your volume setting, you tap the Settings button, navigate 4 icons over to the right until you get to the speaker. You adjust the volume by using the plus and minuses buttons. 0, which is off and essentially your machine is muted, all the way up into 6. Now 6 is very loud, especially if you're wearing the Bluetooth headphones. So I would start at a lower setting, put your headphones on, and then slowly creep it up so you don't blow your earballs out. Your next setting is your backlight button. To access your backlight button, you tap the Settings button, use your left and right arrow keys to arrow over until you get to the little sunshine icon. The backlight button not only increases your LCD screen, it also backlights your keypad as well. You can go all the way down to 0, which is essentially off, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and the 5 is incredibly bright. Above 5, you have A1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In the automatic modes, the machine will only display the backlight if you swing over a target or if you tap a button. So if I save this, you'll see the machine will go out within about a second or two. And if I tap a button or swing over a target, the backlight comes back on. It's a bit of a battery saver. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to go down to 2 only because it gives the less screen flicker. When you're using the backlight, it also displays the sunshine on your top information bar. If I were to lower it down to 0 and turn it off, you'll see that icon disappears, saving you some battery life. The backlight is available on all 3 Score model machines and works exactly the same. The next setting we're going to cover is your Bluetooth icon. To access your Bluetooth, you tap your Settings button, use your left or right arrow buttons to go over into the Bluetooth icon. Your Bluetooth settings are either 0 for off or 1 for on. When I turn it on, you see on the information bar there's a flashing set of headphones and the Bluetooth icon as it looks to make that Bluetooth connection. The best way I found to connect your Bluetooth headphones are to actually turn your Bluetooth off and turn on your headphones first by sliding the power button over.
Power on.
Once the headphones themselves are turned on, then go to your Bluetooth icon, hit the 1, and hit the Settings button to accept it. The Bluetooth headphones will flash on the top information bar for a couple of seconds until it makes that solid connection. You'll notice on the information bar next to the Bluetooth icon is a little LL, which stands for low latency. You want to make sure you're using low latency Bluetooth headphones, which means there's very little lag between when the coil hears a signal and it reaches your ears. Standard Bluetooth headphones that are not low latency may have that lag, so you may swing over a target and not hear it for a few milliseconds later. It may not sound like much, but you might spend quite a lot of time digging in the wrong spot. All 3 Score model machines are equipped with built-in Bluetooth, but only the Triple Score comes with the Bluetooth low latency headphones. The next setting is your ground suppression. To access the ground suppression setting, you tap on the Settings button, use your left or right arrows to arrow over to that icon right there. It's the 4th one from the right. Ground suppression helps eliminate false signals that are generated from highly mineralized soil. The default setting for ground suppression is 0, and it can be raised all the way up to, I believe, 8. Now this setting can also do harm and mask out good signals at depth, so I would recommend that most people not use it at first. The potential reward is not worth the risk of missing a valid target. The ground suppression only affects your current search mode and is available on all 3 score machines. Now the ground suppression is not available if you're in relic mode. If I get out of here and switch my mode over to relics, go back in, you see that I now have 2 letters in the bottom corner, AG, because in relic mode this is my audio gain. Audio gain increases the volume of weaker targets with a low range of 1 and I believe a high range of 6 with a default of 2. Although audio gain does not increase your depth, it does give the illusion of depth because you can hear deeper targets better. But at the same time, it makes it harder to gauge a target's true depth because the response punches louder like a shallower target would. The next setting we'll cover is your user profile setting. To access the user profile, you tap on the settings button, use your left or right arrow buttons, and scroll over to the icon of the little person. The user profile allows you to save your custom setting changes so you can get to them again in the future with the touch of one button. The Triple Score machine offers 3 user profiles, 1E, 2E, and 3E, where the E just stands for empty because we're not using it yet. If I wanted to make a change, I'll give you an example. I'm going to go back down to 1, and if I get out, you'll see my sensitivity is turned all the way down to 1. If I go into the user profile and I want to save that, I click and hold the pinpoint button. You'll see a slight animation as I'm holding the button, and then it changes to 1F for full, and I can let it go. If I go out, you can see that my sensitivity is still at 1 bar, just like I saved it as. Now, if I go back into the user profile and I up arrow to 2, which is an empty default profile, and select it, you see that my sensitivity is all the way up and the machine's making a racket because I'm indoors and it's picking up nails and even metal from the table. If I click back to my user profile, arrow down to 1, and select it, all of my settings from that profile instantly come back with the touch of just that button. If you want to clear out and delete one of the custom profiles you made, you go back into your user profile, highlight the one you want, which would be the full, and hold down the pinpoint button again. You'll see the animation go through, and when it clears it, you're back to the 1E. I accept it. You see my sensitivity is back up because I made it a default profile, so I have to lower it back down again just for the purposes of this video. Your current user profile will also appear on your top information bar. And again, the triple score gives you 3 available user profiles, the double score gives you 2, and the score does not have user profiles. The next setting we'll cover is notching. To access your notching setting, you click on the settings button, use your left or right arrow buttons, and go over to the horseshoe or the second one from the right. Notching is the way that you can accept or reject any target ID segment along the target ID scale. Don't forget that the target ID scale has 30 segments, where each segment represents 2 target IDs. So for every segment that you notch out, you're actually turning off 2 individual target IDs. To notch segments out, you use your plus or minus buttons to move the arrow underneath of your dashes on your target ID scale to the target you want to remove. When you reach it, you hit the pinpoint button, and you'll see the dark rectangle above the dash disappears, which means you are no longer going to get an alert from either of the 2 target IDs that fall in that segment. I can move down the row and continue to notch out whatever I want, and it doesn't have to be in a continuous order. When I make all the changes, I can then save this as part of my user profile and return to this custom discrimination pattern at a later date. To put them back in, again, I just use my plus and minus arrows to arrow over to where there's a blank rectangle, hit the pinpoint button, and it puts it back in. And I would do this along the scale until I get all these back in. Once you're done, you just tap the settings button again, and you're back ready to swing the machine. Notching is available on all 3 score machines, and any notches you make only affect the existing search mode you're in. The next setting is actually your sub-setting icon. To access the sub-setting icon, we tap on the settings button and use the arrow buttons to arrow over to the triangle on the far right. you'll see now a second layer of additional settings appears above. To access the next row, we hit the plus arrow to move up a level, and the first setting we land on is our number of tones. With the triple score, you can change the number of different target tones that you will hear by breaking up your target ID scale into different zones. If I change my number of tones to 1, now every target I swing over will have the exact same tone because the target ID scale is one continuous zone. If I increase the number of tones to 2, now the machine will make 2 different tones, a low tone for targets that land on the 1 to 10 portion of the scale, and then a higher tone for targets that land on 11 to 60 on the target ID scale. As I increase the number of tones the machine has, it has to break up the target ID scale into that many zones. That way the machine will know when to make a different tone. The triple score has 1 tone, 2 tone, 3 tone as you saw. It also has 4 tones, 6 tones, 60 tones, and a pitch tone. The number of tones you select only changes the search mode that you are currently in, and it can be saved as part of your user profile. The next setting is your iron volume setting, which is only available on the triple score. To access your iron volume, you tap the settings button, make sure you're on the sub-settings icon on the right, hit the plus arrow to go up to the second level, and then arrow over to the little speaker icon. The iron volume allows you to increase or decrease the volume of just that first zone, your iron zone. I can bring the iron volume all the way down to 0, essentially discriminating iron out, or I can bring it up to the max of 10, which is the default of every other zone. A lot of detectorists like to hear their iron, but at a lower volume. That way it's not blowing their earballs out all day. Your next sub-setting is your tone breaks, which is also only available on the triple score. To access the tone breaks, you tap your settings button, make sure you're on the sub-settings icon, and plus up to the next level, and then arrow over to the tone break icon. Tone breaks allow you to adjust the target ID range of that first zone. You can see the black rectangles on my target ID scale indicating the current size of my first target zone. By tapping the minus button, I can decrease the size of that first zone all the way down to 2. If I save this setting, only targets that give me a target ID of 1 or 2 would have a low ferrous tone, and then any target above 2 would have a higher tone. I could also increase the tone break all the way up to, heck, I don't even know, 38. If I save this setting, any target that gives me a target ID of 1 to 38 would have an iron tone. By extending or shortening the tone break, you're allowing more or less targets to fall into the ferrous category. The tone break is also in proportion to the number of tones you selected. So if I go over to 1 tone, you'll see I don't even have a tone break because I only have 1 large zone. So I have to be at least 2 tones or more to be able to go in and manipulate my tone break. The next subsetting on the triple score is your threshold. To access threshold, you hit your settings button, make sure you're on the subsettings icon, plus up to the next layer, and then arrow over to the threshold button. In a short explanation, a threshold setting is a low, constant background hum that you will hear all throughout your detecting. A target has to break through that hum in order to give an audio response. On a true threshold machine, you can reach much deeper targets while the threshold is on. To use the threshold, you would increase the threshold volume until you can just barely hear it in the background. By default, the threshold is set at 0, which is off, and again, the threshold is only available in the triple score. The next setting is your bottle cap rejection setting. To access bottle cap rejection, we tap the settings button, make sure we're on the sub-settings icon, hit the plus arrow to go up to the next level, and then use the arrow buttons to go over to the third icon from the right. The bottle cap rejection is a way to adjust the signal produced by a bottle cap and have it rejected as iron instead of giving a good non-ferrous tone. The default setting is 0 or off, but it can be increased by using the plus button, and I believe it goes to a maximum of 8. But keep in mind, you can accidentally reject other good targets by increasing this setting. Next, we'll go over the vibration setting. To access the vibration setting, we tap the settings button, make sure we're on the sub-settings icon, plus up to the next layer, and then arrow over to the vibration icon, the second one from the right. This setting activates a vibration effect on the hand grip whenever a target is detected or a button is pressed. The default setting is 0, and I can bring it all the way up to 5, and it is vigorously vibrating in my hand. I can lower it back down to 1, which is still a really strong vibration, and you can see it put a vibration icon on my top information bar, which means it's going to be using a little more battery. But it's a great feature if you're hearing or vision impaired, so you can still get out there and enjoy the hobby. Vibration is available on all 3 of the Score models. The last setting is your LED flashlight. To access the LED flashlight, we tap the settings button, make sure we're on the sub-settings icon, hit the plus arrow to go up to the next layer, and then arrow over to the flashlight all the way on the right. The LED flashlight is located on the back of the control box and shines a light down the ground, which is perfect for low light detecting. The settings for the LED flashlight are 0 off or 1 on. There are no additional adjustments. When the LED flashlight is on, you'll see it also puts an icon on your top information bar, which means it is activated and will use a little more battery. The LED flashlight is available on all 3 Score models, and I'm going to turn mine off because I'm inside. Lastly, let's talk about a factory default. If for any reason you need to return back to the factory defaults, you can tap the settings button and arrow over to the user profile setting. Now, rather than holding down the pinpoint button and saving a setting, we're going to hold down the frequency button instead. You'll see an animation come up for a few seconds, and then the letters FD for factory default. You're going to see that my settings are back up. Any user profiles I did are erased, so I'm going to lower it back down again. A factory default will set it back to the original day when it left the factory. Well, there it is. The Nokta Triple Score, a detector that has everything you will need in software and hardware to go start your own treasure hunting adventure. Now, at the time of this video, summer of 2024, the Nokta Triple Score has a retail price in America of $669. But for a limited time, to celebrate its release, it's discounted all the way to $479. And that includes the Bluetooth headphones and both search coils. If you have any questions about the machine, please try to put them in the comments section of this video, and I'll try my best to get to them as soon as I can. But otherwise, thanks for watching, everybody. Happy hunting, and I will see you on the next one. Later.